Welcome, dear hearts. So today I'm going to talk about that fiery green energy of jealousy. Jealousy is not often a comfortable emotion for us to talk about or even acknowledge that we've had, but what my decade plus in the healing fields has shown me is that jealousy is a very normal human emotion, and most of us experience it to some degree or another. In my practice, in my own personal life, I have experienced jealousy. I have been jealous, and I have also experienced the jealousy of others. So today I'm going to share a story of how during my Kundalini awakening process, Kali Ma brought me face to face with this jealousy that I had been holding inside of me, and also how she helped me to transmute it and transform it, and what that looks like. We have to understand that all emotions, all suppressed emotions, block our heart center. And this is a very important center because this is the center of our being. This is the center between our physical existence and our existence as spiritual beings. So when this is blocked, then there's havoc and chaos in our field, okay? There's havoc and chaos in our life because this is the space from which we feel connected to everyone and everything and to all of life. It is where we see ourselves in the other and the other in ourselves. It is where we feel oneness. We experience unity consciousness through our heart. Okay, when we are in separation consciousness or in the state of mind of othering, it is usually when our heart space may be experiencing some blockages, some turbulence, and it's very important for us to keep this space open, because this is where we experience also the yumminess of life, the beauty of life, the sacredness of life, and our interconnectedness to everyone and everything and all of life. Our empathy is generated from the center, deep compassion and kindness, understanding that we are one. At the level of energy, there is no separation. I always say this. One of my first teachers told me that. And I want to share that message with you. At the level of energy, there is no separation. So this is really inherently the space from where we feel oneness. And when this is blocked through those suppression of emotions, perhaps we have deemed those emotions wrong or bad. We have exiled them. We've abandoned them. We choose not to accept that we experience them. Me, I don't experience jealousy, Or a lot of the times what I hear is, I'm not jealous, but I've also been guilty of saying that. So I'm going to share the story now. This was not my first experience of jealousy, but the intensity of it was very high. And that is because Kali Ma is an Ugra energy. Yes, she has a Saumya form, she has a gentle form, but she's also Ugra. She's fierce, she's intense, her energies are intense. Her ability to help you transform and transmute energies is very fast, it's very quick. So for the mind, it can feel extremely intense when you're going through a purging, when you are facing your shadows, when she is asking you to look in the mirror of all that you have kept hidden from yourselves. So a couple of months ago, I was really blessed, and I went to Kolkata for Diwali. And right before I went, I had the darshan of Kali Ma. And what I experienced was I was in yoga and I saw Ma, and she was dancing. And on top of my altar, I have a picture of Anandamayi Ma. And when I looked into Ma's eyes, there were flames in her eyes. And at that point, I was, I felt blessed. I felt really excited. And I should have known what that means. Ma has not just come to say hi. She's saying, okay, let's get to work. So we arrive in Calcutta, and I'm with a very dear friend of mine. And my friend played a huge role in this Leela, in this play that happened. My friend is X. She could have been anyone, but for this trip and for this purging and for this expansion of my soul that was asking me to let go of this density, to transmute this density back into love, back into oneness, she played that energy that triggered my jealousy. So we're going around and suddenly I start feeling that burning feeling. You know, it was rising up from here and I could feel it taking over, and I started feeling jealous. And when I would look, I couldn't understand why, because the stories that she was sharing were the same, similar to what I had. The attention that she was receiving is not that I had never received that attention before. And I could feel this burning jealousy. And immediately what happened is I went into judgment. I was angry with myself initially. That was my initial instinct, okay? I was angry. I was in judgment of my own self, and I was in judgment of the experience and the emotion. And during this trip, we went to Dakshineshwar. We went to the Sham Sundari Kali Mandir, okay, which is the young Kali, the child Kali. And as I sat in those two spaces at two different points, when I was facing the idol, the murti of Ma, I could feel the jealousy rise up. So when I was there in the temple, I said to Ma finally, I said, okay, I acknowledge this energy. I acknowledge it. I can feel it. I don't know if it's from this moment. I don't know if it's from childhood. I don't know if it's from lifetimes, but I acknowledge it and I feel it. And I put my hand onto my heart and I said, I see you, I honor you, and I feel you. And then I asked Ma, I said, help me to transmute this in whichever way you want to, but help me, show me how. So at first, when I reached back to the hotel, I lay in my bed and I allowed myself to really feel it. And I allowed myself to honor, to see, to feel, to hold space for, and to stay with the energy. To stay with the energy. It was not comfortable and I wanted to run away, but after a lot of time of doing this practice, I was able to stay. And then something beautiful happened, okay, which is only divine grace. This was Ma's grace. This was Ma's love, okay? This was her fierce love. And I felt like she was saying, okay, I'm proud of you. You stayed, you faced it, and now I'm going to help you to transform it. So as I'm lying on the bed and I'm doing this practice of allowing, my friend calls me and says, can you come to my room? And we sit together and we start talking, we start sharing, and she shares with me how one of her greatest pains in life has been to not have good female friendships, because she's always experienced jealousy from her female friends. And what happened to me in that moment was there was a pause, a freeze. I snapped out of that and I came back into unconditional love. I felt deep empathy for her. I could feel her pain. I could truly feel how much pain she felt from lacking that sisterhood, you know, from lacking that true sisterhood that we experience. So that was one of the first ways in which Ma helped me transmute that jealousy back into unconditional love, okay? And then what I realized, when I had this realization, I was like, okay, jealousy between women is really a part of the patriarchal system, because for a very long time, for thousands of years, women have been pitted against each other. We have been in competition with one another for the male gaze, for the husband, for the boyfriend, for the male attention. And what that has caused is a great divide, a great assault on sisterhood. And women together are a force, okay? When the Shakti of women comes together, they generate a great force. And women can be huge sources of support for one another. Just like men can be huge sources of support for each other. Women together, collectively, sharing their experience, their wisdom, their pain, their burdens, their victories, can be a huge source of support for each other. So when I went back to my room after this exchange with my friend, I reconnected with Ma and I told Ma that I want to transmute this, not just for me, but for my entire lineage. I had seen jealousy growing up in my family. I had seen what it does, how it created internal conflict and divide in the family, okay? How it kept one away from their own personal power because they were too busy looking at what the other was doing rather than focusing on themselves and their own innate gifts, their own talents. So I said to Ma, I said, I want to transmute this not just for me, but for my lineage and for all of my sisters in humanity, for all of us. Because at the level of energy, there is no separation. So what I can do for this body and this energy can ripple out through the collective, through my lineage, through my ancestry. Okay, maybe I was that ancestor who experienced this. I needed this to be resolved. And also for all of my sisters in humanity. And when I set this intention, the entire left side of my body was having pain at this time. Okay, so the emotion had risen, the purging had started, the phantom pains had started. And when I set this intention and I kept surrendering it to Ma, I felt the energy dissipating, going where it wanted to go. And I returned back to my center. And then as I moved through the next 2 days, what I experienced was another gift that I feel Ma gave to me. And she showed me something which we all know, it's very practical advice, but sometimes we forget it. When our consciousness is not rooted in ourselves, when we are focusing on what somebody else is doing, how they are looking, how they are behaving, how they are acting, we are taking away from our own personal power and our own source of creation. I can look at the other in appreciation and inspiration. If I am feeling jealous, I can use that as an indicator to show me where am I disconnected from my own personal power? Where have I not tapped into that same potentiality that may be dormant in me? Whatever it is, where are my gifts waiting to be reclaimed by me? Is it the gift of my voice? Sometimes when we look at another and we compare, we shrink ourselves. We make ourselves small. We stop taking up space because we're too focused on what the other is doing or not doing, how they are looking or not looking, the amount of attention they are getting or not getting. And all of those things, all of that mental chatter and noise makes us shrink. And that actually then amplifies that experience, you know? So if you are experiencing an emotion like jealousy, and even if you're not working with Kali Ma, or should I say Ma is not working with you, you can do this just for yourself. You can bring all of your attention and focus back to yourself. Initially, it may feel like you have to practice this a few times, okay? It's not always easy. We are used to sometimes keeping our attention, our consciousness outside of us. There is so much that is always calling for and begging for our attention, so much distracting us. There is so much so much information and feedback that can make us feel less than. And if you are already holding those deeper emotions within you of unworthiness, okay, it can feel very triggering. So yeah, one of the things is to go to the root of that, unworthiness. To go to the root of all of the emotions, of any emotion, even of jealousy. Under the jealousy may be something else. It may be feelings of lack, feelings of unworthiness, feelings of scarcity, feeling like not being good enough. Okay, so that is how you tap back into your own personal power. And also, to finish off, perhaps the most important message: where there is judgment, there cannot be unconditional love. Unconditional love is the absence of judgment. And it is that love that we have to turn towards our own selves first and foremost, to meet ourselves with the lens, in that state of unconditional love. That whatever is arising within us, it's okay. Meet it with love, meet it with non-judgment. Not with questioning, not with rationalizing, not with explaining, not with going into a story in the mind, not with justifying, just with unconditional love. And unconditional love accepts all. It is accepting of all that arises. So if you've struggled with jealousy, if you're struggling with jealousy, this is a practice that you can do for yourself. Okay? And let me know in the comments, did this sharing help you? Have you experienced something similar? Are you struggling with jealousy right now? Have you struggled with jealousy and overcome it? Please share. The more we share, the more we normalize things that we have exiled and abandoned. People don't discuss their jealousy. It doesn't mean they don't feel it. And I'm saying that as a therapist, as a practitioner in the field of energy. Okay, my 11 years plus of experience, people, all of us feel jealousy. It's a normal human emotion. But if we let that jealousy run wild, if we let it consume us, it is destructive. It is destructive for our own selves because it disconnects us from our power. It disconnects us from our gifts. It disconnects us from our soul. And it is destructive to our relationships because somewhere in the back of your mind, there is that voice that is whispering. It may be a hateful voice, that voice of jealousy, you know, that insecure voice. And that can be very destructive for our interpersonal relationships. And it can show up. It may not show up physically, but intangibly at the level of energy. Those vibrations are there. And they do impact the relationship. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. The more we normalize these things, the more that we understand that it's okay. And we understand that we can also transmute it. We don't have to stay stuck in that. You know, it's more a way of coming back into wholeness again. And also of having a healthier relationship with our own self and with one another. Thank you so much for tuning in, and all of my love.